Hey, my name is Jonas, I'm one of the devs behind the indie game Islanders, and over 3 years ago, I started working on my second big indie game project, Will You Snail. Compared to Islanders, where we were a team of 3 and got a lot of support from our university, I'm making Will You Snail all alone from this room right here. And instead of the 4 to 6 months we spent on Islanders, I'm already 3 years into this one. It's been over 9 months since I last uploaded a devlog, so we have a lot to catch up on in this video, including why my expenses are kinda starting to spiral out of control, as well as my latest legal fuck-ups.
That's illegal.
Seatbelts on, buckle up. Let me get you all back up to speed real quick. Will You Snail is a fast-paced platformer that is completely centered around the evil AI, Squid, who tries to predict your movement in order to spawn various obstacles. So in Will You Snail, you dodge AI-spawned traps, you try to outplay the AI.
Making those spikes fall down at just the right time is so fun.
You solve puzzles, and you uncover the dark secrets of the simulation. The game will be fairly short, but it's also pretty condensed with tons of variety. I'm a little bit of a crazy person, so the game will kind of reflect that as well.
I'm good. Completely fine. Here, just play the level. Okay?
In the early stages of development, Will You Snail was only meant to be a silly little rage game, but I kept pushing the release date back again and again. And the game kept evolving and my vision kept growing. In my last devlog I showed you that I was pretty close to finishing the game already. I showed you the new music I made, performance improvements, new graphics, my first attempts of redesigning the logo, and I showed you my plushie beating me up, of course. But obviously I continuously kept working on the game since then. So what the hell have I been up to for the last 9 months? The first big point is story. The game only used to have very vague and philosophical story snippets that didn't really tell you a lot about anything.
Have you ever asked yourself why you're here?
But my playtesters always wanted to learn more about Squid and the Will You Snail universe, so I listened, did some extensive planning, and wrote about 1000 lines of additional dialogue. I love the storytelling in Outer Wilds. It's one of my favorite games where you can explore the story at your own pace, and figuring out what exactly happened is part of the challenge. So inspired by that, I split the dialogues into about 50 segments that players will have to piece together and try to make sense of. So you can now find snippets of dialogue in the game. These weird little springs, as the playtesters call them. They don't have any voice acting though, because the voice acting for Squid alone is already driving me into insanity.
I can hear the voice lines. They are talking to me.
But as a solution, I got my friend Yen and my sister Clara to do some generic talking sounds, which I think already makes the characters feel very alive. I also added a new room where you can look at all of the dialogue snippets you found so far in chronological order. Again, somewhat inspired by Outer Wilds, probably. Will my story be as good as the one from Outer Wilds? I doubt it, because this is the first time I'm writing a story for a game. But hey, we'll see. I don't really want to spoil too much, but let me just say, it's obviously a story about artificial intelligence, just like the entire game. And I think it approaches the topic from an angle I personally haven't seen before. Because I was kind of wondering, what exactly would happen if AI became powerful far beyond our wildest imaginations? There are also some new story levels, but I'm walking the fine line of showing what I've made without spoiling the experience here. You also might have noticed that Squid has facial animations now. These were trickier to make than it looks, cause Squid literally just consists of 4 brackets, 1 line and 2 dots. But a few sketches later, this is eventually what I settled on. Neutral, mean, sad, annoyed, happy, angry, evil, skeptical, pitying, worried, horrified, cheeky, and crazy. I personally think they turned out quite well, but not everybody seems to like them, so I think I'm just gonna add a setting that allows you to disable them if you really want to. I added a new game mode to the game! Yay! The main levels can be a little frustrating at times, which yes, is by design.
Wow, you landed precisely where you weren't supposed to land. That requires some serious skill. Congrats. Here, I made it even easier for you. You'll probably still fail though.
But I felt like it would be nice to have a small, more relaxed game mode as well, where you can just kinda jump around and enjoy the good vibes. In this mode, you just have to collect the smileys to level up.
What's the purpose of leveling up, you may ask? Well, I don't know either.
It is nothing special, but for some reason I just find myself playing it for way too long whenever I need to test it. I added some speed boosters and a combo system, so now it's surprisingly enjoyable, even though there's no real point behind it, except for a Steam achievement maybe. Just like last time, I made some new music. You heard some of it already. This one is a track for the 4th chapter of the game. Unfortunately, I'm not quite sure how well it fits, so I might have to rework it a little bit. But let me know what you think. Should we make it more uplifting? Should we change it? Should we keep it? Let me know in the comments. And last but not least, I also kept working on the credit song some more. You remember early on I made a very cringe credit song that sounded like this. There are words where we suffer. There are words where we strive. That's enough. Too cringe. A bit later I reworked it to this, which I was already way happier with. Hello AI, can you tell me where I am? 'Cause I don't know what to think anymore. Am I on a chip or in another universe? And I guess the latest development I need to inform you about is that I followed your advice and hired a professional singer. So we now have vocals by Jason Haynes, who I found online.
Hello AI, can you tell me where I am? 'Cause I don't know what to think anymore. Am I on a chip or in another universe? Are we alone or are you with us?
Once again, still not 100% finished. I think a little more work is needed, but definitely going in a cool direction. As you can tell, I put quite a bit of effort into the soundtrack, so before the question pops up in the comments again, yes, I will upload this to all popular streaming services as well as to Steam and to YouTube. Since last time I also completely reworked the colors of the game. Again, this is how the colors used to look like, and this is how they look like now.
The classic color scheme is the best.
Yeah, I like the classic one as well, but the new one looks better on marketing screenshots.
The new one looks more like every screenshot looks the same. I don't know. Because they're all some kind of desaturated pink.
That's fake news. But hey, don't worry. Stop worrying so much. I added a color scheme selection in the menu, so if you liked the old colors better, you can still pick those as well. There are 2 color schemes now. You can choose. This is the classic color scheme, this is the modern color scheme, and both of them are a lot better than what we had before. And of course, as mentioned in the last devlog, you can even create your own color schemes completely from scratch if you don't mind diving into some cryptic text files. So I'm already very curious what color schemes you will come up with. And the reason why there's no color editor built directly into the game is because we do want to release the game at some point, right? Honestly, I made so many changes since last time that we really need to speed this up a little bit. I finished the logo redesign. I added save slots. I created a new intro animation when you start the game. I updated the store page after Chris Zukowski told me in this video how I can do better.
I know it sounds like you're being redundant. You gotta tell them like 3 times. You're telling somebody...
Okay. I made a new trailer for the game after Derek Liu told me in this video how I can do that properly.
The best time to start thinking about your trailer is when you're thinking of game ideas.
I mean, most of you have probably seen the trailer by now. I added a few hats. I added tons of new Steam achievements. I added an epilepsy warning to the game. And. Translations for Will You Snail are a big, fat yikes. At the moment, the game has exactly 19,221 words or 106,816 characters. That's roughly 1,000 voice lines for Squid and 600 lines of dialogue for the Springs. And that's not even counting the store page and the achievements, which obviously need to be translated as well. Luckily for me, a lot of you reached out telling me that you want to support me with the translations for the game. I was more than grateful for that, so an absolutely insane translation journey started. One massive Google Sheets file, 200 translators, and over 50 different languages. It was absolute insanity how many translations you contributed to the project. We even managed to get translations for Arabic, Danish, Persian, some languages I haven't even heard of before. But then it happened, disaster struck. As this entire game project was slowly approaching its end, I brought a lawyer on board to cover all of the remaining legal questions before launch, privacy policy, whether I can use the name Squid in my game if somebody else already used it, and you guessed it, copyright. And that's when I noticed that I just completely messed up. Just because you voluntarily made these translations for me doesn't mean that I own them. The copyright always belongs to the person who made it. So it turned out that if I wanted to use any of your translations, I would have to sign a licensing agreement with whoever made them. So in short, thousands of translations suddenly became absolutely useless unless I could get 200 random community translators from the internet to sign a dubious licensing agreement that even needs to contain their full name and address. And to make matters even worse, for underage translators, both parents have to sign it as well. In my opinion, that makes sense, of course. I'm just saying I didn't make it easy for translators at all. But Jonas, is all of that really necessary? I mean, yeah, technically not, but you're putting yourself at risk of being sued, and we don't like that here. Sorry. So what was the result? About 50 out of the 200 translators signed the agreement, which to be honest was more than I expected after I completely blindsided everybody with that. And then we started a completely new blank translation sheet and started the entire process from scratch. Now I have an entire freaking folder just filled with licensing agreements. The paperwork and organization of this literally set me back several weeks. Hundreds of translators lost hours of work, and all of that just because I did not worry about the legal implications of all of this earlier on. Translators, I said it before, but I'll say it here again. This is my mistake. I screwed up. I'm extremely sorry. I hope I learned my lesson, and this won't happen again. I know what some of you might be thinking. Can you not just copy some of the translations from the old sheet to the new one? And yes, that is possible, but only if we're 100% sure that all of the translators that contributed to the translation signed the agreement. So yes, we did try to recover as much of the translation work from signed translators as possible, but that also comes with its very own logistical challenges. I mean, thanks to the edit history, we can still check fairly accurately which users contributed to which translations. But to do that, you'd have to manually click on several thousand cells. Together with Cetas from the Will You Snail Discord, we found a somewhat acceptable process using a macro recorder. Now there's a computer program checking every single cell for who contributed to the translation, but it's still super slow and a massive pain in the butt. So yeah, not too sure what to do about that, honestly. Let me know if you have any ideas. So the end result of all of this, hundreds of work hours were wasted, both mine as well as from translators. We ended up with a lot less translations than we used to have, and we're legally covered and can't be sued for copyright infringement anymore. Wow, yeah, that's great. Totally worth it. A small victory. The lessons this taught me: worry about legal implications of everything you do earlier on. Don't make games with a lot of text. Don't translate your game into 50 languages before it's even out yet. That's stupid. Stupid! By the way, if you still want to help with the translations after everything you've just heard, or you just want to stay in the loop with the development, join the Will You Snail Discord. I really appreciate your support. Thank you. Besides the translations, there's one more thing that makes me a little nervous, and that's how my expenses for the game are kind of starting to spiral out of control. My estimate is that the total cost of making the game will be at least 20,000 bucks. The majority of those costs are once again for translations, cause I hired a localization company to create and proofread some of the missing translations, but there are also legal expenses, software licenses, marketing costs like paying the shelf man who edits most of my YouTube videos at the moment, so I have more time to work on the game, soundtrack vocals, Steam fees. I still live with my dad, where my living expenses are relatively low, but 20,000 bucks is still a lot of money for me. Yes, Islanders did well and created a nice financial buffer, but 20k is still about twice the money I've made from this YouTube channel since I started it 3.5 years ago. Oh, and by the way, those were 3 years where I missed out on a normal salary by not working a normal job. So if I just assume a somewhat average salary in Germany, that's about another 85,000 I missed out on. That means my total time and resources invested for Will You Snail equal about 105,000 bucks. That's why surviving as an indie developer is so hard. Oh no! I literally need to make 105,000 bucks with Will You Snail just to make an average salary. I don't know how realistic that is. You know what I mean? And by the way, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I'm entitled to an average salary or something like that. I'm making games because I love making games. The reason I'm doing these calculations is because in the long run, I would love to support a family off of all of this. Save your empathy for somebody who actually needs it. I'm fine. I'm just trying to share something interesting with you here. Let's run the math a little further, right? Let's say the game will cost 15 bucks. Most people will probably buy it when it's on a discount though. So let's say the average price will be more like 13 bucks. Now let's deduct 5% refunds, 30% from Steam's card, and 50% taxes. That means my profit per game sold could be something like 4.3 bucks. 105,000 divided by 4.3 is 24,418. That means I have to sell 24,000 copies to break even on my work. Go wishlist Will You Snail on Steam right now. It's a beautiful game and wishlisting is 100% free. If you wishlist, you will get notified on launch when the game comes out, as well as about every day. As the 100th member, I hereby present to you an extremely poorly drawn Shelly begging to be released on Steam.
Well, that's up to you, Jonas.
I will release Will You Snail in October. Some October, not this one.
He's in 2020. In 2020. Well, at least it will release in 2021, right?
So you want to have the game? That is epic. I couldn't be more grateful, which makes what I'm about to say even more painful. The release date of Will You Snail is... not this year. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh no. Yeah, it was inevitable. So I was wise enough to put a maybe in the trailer. Now it happened. Your memes predicted it.
Oh man. Not again.
The delay is mostly for a different reason this time though, and I think you'll be excited when you hear about it. Will You Snail will launch in Q1 of 2022. If not, I want you all to unsubscribe from this channel. I'm just as sick of these delays as you are. This video right here might be one of the last, if not the last, Will You Snail devlog. Why? Well, cause the game's done. All that's left to do is a ton of bug fixing, some performance improvements, marketing, and making sure playtesters stop giving me new things to do. I'll obviously make some other fun game dev videos till then. Subscribe if you're new. Subscribe if you're new. Please go wishlist Will You Snail now to let the Steam algorithm know that you're interested. That way you directly help me to keep making games and YouTube videos for you. Wishlist. Wishlist. I really appreciate all of your support more than you can imagine. This is the end game.